Friends, picture this moment that has likely happened to each of us. You've just finished presenting a project you've poured your heart into, perhaps at work, or maybe you've shared a creative endeavor online. You feel a quiet sense of accomplishment, that gentle satisfaction of having given your best effort. Then, it happens. Someone delivers their verdict. This isn't quite right, or I expected better. Or perhaps the most devastating of all, this completely misses the mark. In an instant, that sense of accomplishment crumbles. Your chest tightens. Your mind begins its familiar spiral, replaying the criticism, dissecting every word, imagining what others must think. You find yourself checking your phone obsessively, seeking validation from other sources, desperately trying to counterbalance that single negative voice. The criticism echoes in your mind for hours, sometimes days, coloring every subsequent interaction and decision. But here lies the profound question that cuts to the very heart of human experience. Why do we grant such immense power to the opinions of others? What is it about external judgment that can so swiftly dismantle our inner peace? And more importantly, is there a way to navigate this universal human challenge without losing ourselves in the turbulent waters of others' perceptions? This is not merely a question of developing thicker skin or learning to not care. This touches something much deeper, the very foundation of where we locate our sense of worth, our understanding of success, and our relationship with the inevitable reality that others will judge our actions. The ancient Stoics understood this struggle intimately, and they offer us a path forward that transforms our entire relationship with criticism. The Dichotomy of Control. The answer to our modern predicament lies in one of Stoicism's most fundamental teachings, the dichotomy of control. This principle, most clearly articulated by Epictetus, divides all of existence into two distinct categories: those things that are within our control, and those that are not. In essence, this becomes the philosophical rudder that guides us through the storms of external judgment. What exactly falls within our control? Only three things: our judgments, our choices, and our actions. Everything else, including the opinions, criticisms, and feedback of others, exists firmly outside our sphere of influence. This isn't merely a philosophical abstraction. It's a practical framework that can revolutionize how we experience criticism. Epictetus, who knew suffering intimately as a former slave, reminds us in his AD discourses, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When someone offers negative feedback, the feedback itself is not within our control. Their words, their tone, their timing, their motivations, all of this belongs to them, not to us. The only territory we truly govern is our response to their words. The classic teaching and modern translation, as Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The Emperor of Rome, arguably the most powerful man of his time, understood that even he could not control the opinions and judgments of others. If the ruler of an empire recognized this fundamental limitation, how liberating should this truth be for us? Let me translate this ancient wisdom into modern terms. Imagine your mind as an impregnable fortress, your inner citadel, as the Stoics called it. The walls of this fortress represent your values, your principles, and your self-knowledge. Outside these walls, there is constant activity. People talking, judging, praising, criticizing. Some throw stones at your walls. Others bring gifts. But here's the crucial insight. Nothing from the outside can breach your walls unless you open the gates and invite it in. When someone offers negative feedback, they are simply placing their opinion outside your fortress walls. It sits there, in the external world, with no inherent power over your inner peace. The criticism only gains power when you choose to open your gates, pick up their opinion, and carry it into your sacred inner space. In other words, it is not their criticism that disturbs your tranquility. It is your judgment that their criticism should disturb you. Seneca, in his Epictetus, offers us another powerful metaphor. Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks the truth turns from the new and strange to the eternal. The new and strange here represents the constant stream of external opinions, today's criticism, tomorrow's praise, next week's indifference. But the eternal represents those timeless principles that should guide our actions: integrity, wisdom, justice, and courage. These virtues remain constant regardless of what others think of us. The practical philosophy. 3 mental exercises. Now, how do we transform this wisdom from beautiful theory into lived practice? Here are 3 specific exercises that will strengthen your philosophical muscles. Exercise 1. The external opinion audit. When negative feedback arrives, immediately pause and ask yourself, does this criticism fall within my control or outside my control? Write down the specific elements of the feedback. You'll quickly see that their words, their delivery, and their motivations all belong firmly in the outside my control column. The only items in your control column will be, how do I choose to interpret this? What action will I take in response? What can I learn, if anything, from this perspective? This simple audit shifts your focus from the overwhelming external storm to the manageable internal response. It's like suddenly realizing you've been trying to control the weather when you should have been choosing your clothing. Exercise 2. The virtue filter. Before reacting to criticism, run it through what I call the virtue filter. Ask yourself, if I respond according to wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, the 4 cardinal virtues, what would that response look like? This removes the emotional charge and grounds your response in timeless principles rather than momentary feelings. Sometimes the virtuous response is to acknowledge valid points and make improvements. Other times, it's to gracefully disregard opinions that don't align with your values. Occasionally, it's to respond with compassionate understanding that the critic may be projecting their own struggles onto you. The virtue filter helps you discern which path serves your highest good. Exercise. Premeditation of judgment. Each morning, spend 5 minutes practicing what Stoics called premeditatio malorum, but specifically focused on criticism. Visualize receiving negative feedback today. See yourself in that moment, feeling that initial sting, then consciously choosing your response. Practice thinking, this person's opinion is external to me. I will listen for any wisdom it contains, then respond according to my principles, not my emotions. This isn't pessimistic thinking. It's mental preparation. Just as athletes visualize successful performances, we can rehearse philosophical responses. When criticism actually arrives, you'll have already practiced your response, making it much easier to maintain your inner citadel. The deeper teaching, amor fati, and feedback. There's an even deeper level to this wisdom. The advanced Stoic practice of amor fati, love of fate, suggests that we can actually learn to be grateful for criticism. Not because criticism itself is pleasant, but because it offers us opportunities to practice philosophy, to strengthen our character, and to clarify our values. Epictetus taught that every person we encounter is our teacher. The person who praises us teaches us about the fleeting nature of external validation. The person who criticizes us teaches us about the independence of our inner worth. Both are gifts, though they arrive in different packaging. When we truly understand this principle, criticism becomes not an attack on our character, but an invitation to demonstrate our character. Each negative comment becomes a chance to practice patience, discernment, and emotional regulation. The feedback transforms from an external threat into an internal opportunity. The liberation of expectations. Seneca offers us another profound insight in his letters to Lucilius. It is likely that some troubles will befall us, but it is not a present fact. How often has the unexpected happened? How often has the expected never come to pass? This teaches us that our suffering often comes not from criticism itself, but from our expectation that we should be free from criticism. When we release the unrealistic expectation that everyone will approve of our actions, we liberate ourselves from the exhausting cycle of seeking universal validation. We begin to understand that being criticized is not evidence of our failure. It's evidence of our participation in the human experience. The person who never receives criticism is likely the person who never takes meaningful action. As Marcus Aurelius noted, how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does. The key insight here isn't to avoid action, but to avoid the mental trouble that comes from overvaluing others' responses to our action. In essence, the ancient Stoics offer us a revolutionary perspective on criticism. It is not something that happens to us, but something that happens around us, and we retain complete sovereignty over our response. The strength of our character is not measured by the absence of criticism, but by our grace in receiving it and our wisdom in responding to it. Here's the question I leave you with, fellow seekers of wisdom. When criticism next arrives at the gates of your inner citadel, will you consciously choose whether to admit it, or will you react from habit and emotion? Will you remember that your worth is not determined by external validation, but by your alignment with virtue and wisdom? May the light of wisdom illuminate your inner citadel. Until next time.